Alright guys, good evening. My name is Caleb, and today I have an interesting, little analysis going here for you guys. First things first. So through, as the days go by, I intend on just kind of giving a little insight analysis sorts, looking at all the San Francisco 49ers 2025 NFL draft picks. And there's no structure as to how I want to approach this. I'm essentially just comparing the best players, as determined by me, and obviously other experts, more or less, and then seeing if there are any striking similarities to current standards in the NFL, or players that we know we like on the San Francisco 49ers, and then going on from there. So we're focusing on Mykel Williams, the young Mykel Williams, 20 years old, 20 years young, and we're just going to go ahead and compare him to his cohort in the first round, as well as our control, Nick Bosa. I mean, fair to say Nick Bosa is a standard. If we can get a player that can perform to or close to Nick Bosa, it's a win. Let's go ahead and just have a quick breakdown here. I'm going to go through these graphs. It's kind of busy page. So we have total snaps. We have Blue Carter here with 734 snaps altogether, the highest in the comparison group. And we have Mykel Williams at 402, followed by who I believe to be James Pierce here, and then this is going to be Shamar Stewart. I think this is Nick Bosa here at 536. So obviously, when you're looking at this specific analysis, is primarily focusing on the player's ability to be effective in the pass game, pass defense, and less so on run defense. I think it's hard to it'd be hard to assess a player's ability to stop the run based on these types of stats, right? So when we're looking at edge rushers, you're looking at sacks, you're looking at pressures. But unfortunately, there has been a means of assessing run stopping ability. I guess you could make an argument for a tackle for loss. I'll look into that after this video, and if that makes sense to me, or if the data is consistent with what you would expect, then I'll go ahead and update this video. But right now, I'm a little concerned about Mykel Williams. When you look at the data through a vacuum, with you don't really account for other variables. So he was injured this year. In addition to being injured, he was playing at 70%, 75%, and although you can make extrapolations, well, if he's performing like this at 75%, then maybe at 100%, you just kind of add a ratio to his numbers. But that in and of itself isn't a fair assessment. You can't really make that extrapolation because mathematics and fitness in relation to performance aren't exactly one-to-one. They're correlated, but they're not exactly 100% correlated. For instance, Mykel Williams here, if he's 100% fit after 2 years, is 100% fit. How do we know that this number isn't 10 right here? Assume he's playing 100% fit the entire season. Similar snaps so the average was 300.8. The average of the snaps for each player. This is passing. This is for passing snaps. Obviously, we already know that Abdul Carter had the most passing yards. But if you control for passing snaps, and we're looking at passing efficiency or effectiveness, control for number of snaps, you extrapolate based on those numbers of snaps, based on their current, based on this performance. Then, based on that alone, what we'd expected from Mykel Williams, based on his 75 to 70% fitness levels, would be 6 sacks and 18 hurries or pressures on the QB. But we know that, he's not 100% fit. And we know that if you're not 100% fit, you're not going to be performing optimally. And so let's be generous here and say that if Mykel Williams was 100% fit, he would have 7 sacks and 25 hurries. Okay, if you look back at his freshman year where he played 288 games, Mykel Williams had 6 sacks and 25 hurries. There were no concerns about him being injured here as a freshman. That being said, as a freshman, he would have been 18 years old. So, 2 years of development there, your body gets bigger. You acquire a lot more information. So this year, with less snaps, he performed similarly or almost similarly to his freshman year, which is still reasonably impressive. I mean, a lot of effort, a lot of persistence is lacking when you're not 100% fit. So it's promising, but somewhat concerning as well. I'm going to attribute this low hurries and low hurries to not being coached up to where he should be. Furthermore, based on information that I obtained from sports analysts, other YouTubers who follow the 49ers as closely as I wish I could, but I don't necessarily have the time. But the point being, Mykel Williams' potential, assuming that he was fully fit as a junior in this class, because he performed as a freshman, and we know that he's no longer a freshman, right? We don't know what kind of coaching he's getting, but we do know that based on what the analysts specified is that he's highly coachable. He's a team leader. He's willing to play through reasonable or injuries that don't necessarily put you out, but they can somewhat decrease your performance. So that too is that too can be considered like a likable trait, I guess. Right? You can't really compute those types of people or traits. What this information tells me is that Mykel Williams and Shemar Stewart are clearly not at the same level, or they haven't quite acquired the skills necessary to perform at the level of Nick Bosa as a sophomore, James Pierce as a junior, or Abdul Carter as a junior. Abdul Carter, based on this information, is almost certainly going to be a Pro Bowl player. How long it takes him to get there is going to be dependent on, again, the variables that I referred to or alluded to earlier. Personality, coachability, professionality. Furthermore, with respect to injuries, those can also impact a player's development. So assuming all those specific variables I just alluded to are held constant, we can expect Abdul Carter to be an elite pass rusher in the NFL. We can expect Abdul Carter and Nick Bosa, based on these stats alone, to be elite. Nick Bosa has achieved his elite status in the NFL. So based on what I previously alluded to, we can expect Abdul Carter to be an elite pass rusher. James Pierce also appears to have very impressive numbers here. If we correct it for the number of games, you'd expect James Pierce to have, say, to 300.8. James Pierce should have between 9 and 9.5 or 10, close to 10 sacks. All right. Again, this is James Pierce as a junior, and this is Nick Bosa as a sophomore. So James Pierce, Abdul Carter, and Nick Bosa appear to have a similar degree at this time. So Nick Bosa at this point in time in 2017, relative to Abdul Carter and James Pierce, were similar in eliteness, right? So Nick Bosa as a sophomore had a similar elite predisposition, or was as elite as Abdul Carter. So although this is in college, there's a consistent trend between these numbers, these values. I'm sure the other things that are going to go into it. Like, this doesn't show technique or anything. This could just be pure speed, and you're just too fast for a college lineman. So it's kind of hard to tell. What we do know now is that Nick Bosa, in addition to being fast, strong, has a lot of technique to his game, right? I don't think any of these two individuals up here have the same skill set as Nick Bosa as it relates to being able to get to the QB. So it will be interesting to see if whether James Pierce or Abdul Carter develop those skills and become as productive as Nick Bosa in the NFL, or if where they are right now with respect to their skill set is sufficient to producing a similar level, producing at a similar level in the NFL. Personally, I think Abdul Carter will have similar numbers to Nick Bosa purely from a pass rushing or as a pass threat, but I can't say anything with respect to his rushing game. I personally don't think, unless he adds 10 more pounds, I don't see Abdul Carter being a three down defensive end. He's a passing expert. I'm sure they'll still play him as a 3-down defensive end, but it's hard to see, I can't really say with any degree of certainty that he's going to be good at stopping the run, just based on his his draft profile. Shamar Stewart and Mykel Williams are good at stopping the run. Shamar Stewart, I would argue, is the best at stopping the run based on what I saw in the highlights, and Mykel Williams would be second for this draft class. If you guys, at least as it pertains, or at least with respect to all the edges taken in the first round, I haven't looked at any other edges outside the first round. Although the Louisville defensive end was pretty big dude. I forget what his name was, but he seemed to also pretty good at stopping the run there. But anyways, so they also have the defensive schemes here, and again, once more, James Pierce Jr. 3-3-5. Sorry, my computer keeps glitching and I'm defaulting to 2005 here. It's very frustrating. I don't know why it's doing that. But let's see if it keeps doing it. But yeah, so Shamar Stewart and Shamar Stewart 4-2-5. I don't know why I did it up here just fine. And then James Pierce 3-3-5. But most of his highlights show him either when he's not playing on the line in the 3-3-5. He is playing almost like as a linebacker. He'll be rushing as an outside linebacker. He'll drop back into zone in a 3-3 in a three-man defensive front. So most of the time when I saw just James Pierce in the three-man defensive front, he was playing linebacker, not necessarily on the line. So initially, I thought it'd be more or extremely impressive if he was getting this many sacks. Playing as a three-man front, but that wasn't the case. They would often transition to having 4 down, or most of the time when James Pierce got his sacks is when he was playing edge. So just wanted to confirm that one with you guys. So James Pierce has a promising future. Again, there are off-the-field issues with him and uncertainty with respect to his ability to stop the run consistently in the NFL, especially with those big tight ends, Again, once more, what I'm seeing from the information of the data is that Mykel Williams has a promising upside. He has the personality traits that are conducive to reaching your potential, and that might be an interesting or highly impactful variable in determining whether or not a player becomes or reaches their full potential. Oftentimes, when you look at players purely in a vacuum, without taking into account other personality traits, you often don't get the full scope of why a player doesn't reach their full potential, right? So Shamar Stewart left, after being drafted, I think it was at pick 17, he had an interview with the interviewee, and he seemed a bit salty, right? He seemed like he was not satisfied with being taken in the top 20, which to me is a little bit questionable, right? It seems like he was a bit entitled there. You shouldn't really be, his performance is that, right? So over the course of 3 seasons, the numbers showed that he is not an elite pass rusher. So I'm not sure where his negative or salty behavior came from, but It's the kind of personality trait you want to stay away from. If I'm not sure why you'd be salty. Teams have made an objective assessment, and I imagine the reason he even dropped that far down is because his personality, based on what he said. He's like, I'm going to make him regret it or something of that nature. Go ahead and look at his draft again and listen to what he said. It was kind of questionable. But might be a reason why the Niners passed on him. I went with Mykel Williams. Again, information pertaining to Mykel Williams' personality, it all indicates or points to a person who is willing to be coached up, who's professional. And again, when you have someone who has high potential and is highly coachable, extremely professional, and they more readily achieve their full potential. And conversely, if you have someone with extremely high potential, but the personality isn't conducive to reaching that potential, with having low professionality and low coachability, then they never reach the full potential. You can't find one person in this world who has reached the full potential by not being able to be coached up, or by not being able to accept feedback, or things of that nature. Low professionality. It's highly unlikely. So I think that's what was going on with Shemar Stewart. He might still reach his full potential, purely on his own willpower. It's still a possibility. We'll see. Abdul Carter, excellent pass rusher. We'll see how he does in the run game. James Pierce, uncertainty. The numbers are very positive. Off the field concerns, but yeah, that's where I'm at, guys. I just wanted to make a quick upload for you guys, and hope you guys will actually give me some feedback. You guys have a good evening, and let me know in the comments below what you guys think. I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Bye.